Good morning and welcome to Jeannie's World. Today is January the 5th, 2025. Today takes me down memory lane. And I want to talk about my husband. Today is his birthday. The way we met is very strange, and I'm going to try not to get into another story other than exactly about him. But my ex-husband and I had broken up, and he had remarried. But there was still love there because his marriage was arranged. And I was trying very hard to win him back. And I had gone to Austin, Texas to pick up my son from visiting with his father. And my son said to his father, "I'm hungry." And we were at Denny's, so it's a good place to be hungry, right? And my ex-husband turned to my son and says, "No, you're too fat. You don't need to eat anything." I don't know, it's something about him and fat. And anyway, after we left, I told my son, "Don't worry, we're going to stop in Bastrop and we're going to get something to eat." So when we got to Bastrop, he was asleep. And so we were almost in Brookshire, and I was going to stop and get some gas because I always got my gas at this Texaco station. But I did not like truckers. I cannot think of one good word that I would say about a trucker. So anyway, John was really hungry by that time, so across the street was a truck stop. So we went to the truck stop to get something to eat. Well, as we were sitting there, I saw this man. He was all dressed in gray. He had the gray snake band on his hat. He had the gray snake band belt, and he had the gray snakeskin boots. This is a short man. Anyway, this man possessed my soul. Strong word, but I'm telling you, it was a strong feeling. So we left the truck stop and went on home. But that man was here. Couldn't get him out of my head. And from that night forth, which I believe was around March the 1st, I could not sleep. I would get in my car and I would go to take Jahan to eat at the truck stop. He grew tired of that. I would get up in the middle of the night and I would go sit on a hill that overlooked I-10 and Fry Road. I think it was, I remember a hill. I remember a parking lot. And I would look there. Jahan went to Austin to visit his father. I got in my car, got on I-10. I drove all the way to Beaumont and went in the truck stop. And I looked for this man. He wasn't there. So I got back in my car and I went down 59 all the way almost to Victoria, Texas. By that time, I was tired. I spent the night. And then I went home. But this continued and there were two songs, and I can't remember the songs. But when I remember the songs, I'll put them on the video, a different video. I mean, my mind was just going crazy, crazy, because I knew my next husband was going to be a truck driver. Imagine that. Couldn't stand him, but I'm going to marry one. And this went on for a month. Then on March the 31st, Donna and I got in an argument, and we were living in Houston, point of reference. I decided, well, I'm going to New Orleans because I just can't take it anymore. Well, I drove 12 hours, and I believe New Orleans was less than an 8-hour drive. I got on I-10, going the wrong way, stopping, crying, studying, doing all that I do. But after 12 hours, I wound up in San Antonio. San Antonio was not my planned destination. So, but I'm at the end of my ropes because I just can't handle this anymore. Because during this 30 days, I had traveled to Camp Lejeune to see my son. And I stopped at every truck stop that my daughter-in-law would allow me to. I even went to Washington, D.C. On the way home, I went a different way, came through Jacksonville, and then down I-10, looking for this man in gray. I mean, I'm nuts. The only thing I want to do at this point in time, in being in an argument with Donna, it's just kind of devastated me too. I just wanted to go hit the nearest telephone pole, drive to the end of the road until I was out of gas and going nowhere. So I stopped at the Petro, and I checked into the hotel. And the manager was very, very disrespectful to me. I was in the wrong place. It wasn't a place for ladies. Even in my 3-piece suit, it wasn't a place for ladies. Well, I had dreamed about this restaurant a long time ago, where if you have ever been to the Petro, it's like a U shape, and the waitress comes down the middle. There's bar stools or benches, whatever you want to call them, in the front, and then there's booths on the side. And I take dreams very seriously. So I had been there before in my dream. And I'm sitting there, and I'm drinking hot milk. I'm laughing, I'm crying. It's not a good thing. Anyway, there's a man next to me. I call him Santa Claus. He wanted me to get on his truck and wash his windows for him. And no, thank you. And I was still a young woman because I was in my early 40s. But straight in front of me, this man was sitting with his back to me. And he was talking to another man across the aisle who was a wannabe cowboy. And then this man with his back to me said, "I'm stuck in San Antonio for the weekend." So he got up, paid for his coffee. I got up behind him and I said, "Take me to the Riverwalk." And he said, "Huh." Then I followed him to the shoe shine place. And I gave him my business card and I says, "Take me to the Riverwalk." Ha! He turns and he leaves. Well, I only had money for one more night in the hotel. And I had told this man to call me. And I went back to my room, cried. I mean, I am at the end of my ropes. Where is this man? Where is this man in gray? Now, this man I'm talking to is 6 foot tall, so he ain't the right one. He doesn't call. So I go back to the restaurant. It's totally full because it's dinner time. There is one seat left in the entire restaurant. One seat. And that's next to me. And the man comes in. He sits down next to me to get his dinner. And I look at him and I say, "Take me to the Riverwalk." So we go to the Riverwalk. And we get Mexican food. I can't eat it. All these things that I had been feeling were gone. I mean, totally gone. The possession, the crying, everything was gone. And as we were walking down the San Antonio Riverwalk, I look up, kind of, up at God and go, "Why him, Lord? He wears cowboy boots. Why him, Lord? He has a Ritter shirt. Why him, Lord? He has a cowboy hat. Why him, Lord? He's so old." So he bought me some bumper stickers, and we broke a cup. And the cup, breaking a cup, somewhere along the line, it constitutes marriage. Anyway, we talk and talk and talk until there's really nothing left to talk about. And then he said, "Well, I have to go to Baytown." And I says, "Oh, well, I need to go home." I says, "I'll follow you as far as Katy." So we get to Brookshire, we stop, and we get something to eat, and we talk some more. And we both like Star Trek, and we both like this, and there's so many things that we like. And then he says, "Why don't you come with me?" So we go to drop off his load in Baytown, but I'm not allowed in, so I have to sit in the waiting room all night. By the time we get finished, it's time to go home, and it's time for Jahan to come home. I told Jahan, "Oh, I have a surprise for you. Look, I found this man." And I met him on April the 1st. So anyway, I load him up with candy, and he likes candy. I didn't know that. I just loaded him up on candy. And then we start talking all the time. And then I'm trouble with Donna because I'm not sleeping at night because I'm on the phone all night with this man. So I go to work on Monday. Friday, I give my secretary my pager because at that time I was a real estate broker and a high risk auto solicitor. I told her, here is my pager. Here are the keys to my car. Call me if you need me. Just page me. Handing her the page. In other words, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. My daughter, she's all beside herself. She says, you cannot go. You cannot go and meet this man. It's true. I hadn't even known him 8 days. Anyway, so Donna takes me to the airport. And when you're flying, I was going to Des Moines. When we were flying to Des Moines from Houston, there was a thunderstorm, and it was like bombs going off all over down as you looked out the airport window. And when I got to Des Moines, I was walking down the corridor from the airplane. This long, forever long corridor. I thought it was never going to end. And as I'm walking down this corridor, I go, what if he's not here? Because I put my own money to go meet him. I gave up everything to go meet him. And Jahan had decided to live with his father because his father was pushing him so. So all I had was this man at the end of the corridor. And so we took off. He was there. We went and got a hot dog somewhere. He said they were the best hot dogs. Then we got on the truck. And I think our next destination was Manhattan, or New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey. We were delivering meat. I saw the Statue of the Liberty for the first time. It was so neat. And we started talking about, I was a realtor, so I kept a logbook. And of course, him being a truck driver, he kept a logbook. So we started talking about what had passed in the month of March. Well, when I was in Beaumont, he had just left Beaumont. When I got to Victoria, I went to the rest area and I went to sleep. He was in that vicinity unloading. When I was in Washington, D.C., he was in Washington, D.C. When I was in Camp Lejeune, he was 40 miles away from me. So everywhere I was, he was in close proximity to me. Crazy story. Oh, I'm so sorry. This cold front is getting me. It doesn't get cold in Florida. I think it got down to 35 degrees last night. The house is chilly. Anyway, it was like I was destined to meet him. Why I didn't go to New Orleans and I went to San Antonio where he was. Anyway, we got married on April the 1st of the next year. And we moved to Dibble. And we bought us 13 acres. and built a bait shop. And I mean, my ex-husband, he gave me everything that I needed in my life. We had 2 or 3 homes. We drove town cars. I mean, life was good. My children had a good life. They were good years. But I always wished on a star to be happy. Donna had gone and got married. Bobby went off to the Marine Corps. And Jahan went to live with his father. And I have never, ever been so poor in my life as I was with Bob, because I didn't know that he was married. I don't even know when he got divorced that he could marry me. And I did not know anything about this man, except he made me happy. He made me so happy. And I never, ever wished on a star to be happy again. Poorer than dirt. Turned off the electricity at the pole one time. Repoed my double wide. We had to move into a metal barn. But I was happy. I was very happy. One day I'll talk to you about the improvements that we made. We got married in 1996. Life was tough, but life was good. He didn't travel with me, he didn't go on vacations with me, but he was always there. And most of all, he allowed me to be me. I'm a bit cracked in the head at times. Finally, after the children turned 18 and there was no more child support, no more that his ex-wife could call up his job and get him fired, that she no longer had any authority over him. I don't know why the child support office allows women to destroy men. She didn't let him see the children, and that was one reason we moved to Oklahoma, because he wanted to be close to his children. Anyway, after the children turned 18, life started getting very good. He went to work for Weatherford, and then there was he left Weatherford and he went to work for another company, which was much better. And then he fell down. So took him to the doctor. He had to have open heart surgery. He had a cabbage patch heart. There's something wrong. He had to have a valve replacement. I mean, he was on the table for 9 hours. Didn't know if he was going to make it or not, because he was so weak that he had to stay in the hospital for a week. I never left him aside, because the one thing I can say about Bob, he was a liar. He would tell me anything if he thought it would make me happy. I told him, you got to tell me the truth. You can't just give me these bubbles of happiness and let them pop because you're trying to please me. This doesn't work. So anyway, he survived that. He got well. and he passed out again. And I took him to my doctor. He didn't like my doctor. I loved my doctor. He was so good for me. But my husband, he told my husband that probably he was getting more arteries around his heart because of the surgery. So I said, okay, this is heart related. We're going back to the heart doctor. I like that doctor too. It's the best heart doctor I ever had. And so doctor does his thing. We're in the waiting room. And the doctor comes in and says, I'm sorry. You have kidney cancer. So we went in the hospital again for 2 weeks trying to locate the cancer. We did. It was renal cancer located in his heart window. It had metastasized. They gave him a 5% survival rate. And during this time, his sister-in-law, she died of cancer, lung cancer. Bob had survived her with his 5%. Then his brother-in-law got cancer. Doctor told him, go home and die. You're going to live 6 months. That's it. So his brother-in-law went home to die. He outlived Bob. Bob survived 14 months. And his brother-in-law was diagnosed before Bob was diagnosed. And I finished my mourning on February the 14th. That's how long I gave myself. The next February the 14th, I went to my brother-in-law's funeral. And he didn't do chemo. He didn't do anything. And Bob and I, we did everything the doctor said. But I know I'm rambling, but I had dreams. I am such a big believer in dreams. The first dream I had, that I was in this building and everything that you could ever want was in this building. And the person who brought me to this building was my boyfriend that I had right before I met Bob. But if I walked out the door on the right-hand side, there was nothing there but red clay and a big cliff that went into nowhere land. So I was unable to leave this building. But there was really no need, because anything and everything, there was adoption agencies, I called it the Goodwill building in my dream, because anything and everything I wanted. But on my left-hand side of this building was a big glass window. And it was like Florida with the palm trees, all the beautiful vegetation and flowers. It reminded me of Florida. Very beautiful. And there was Bob. But I couldn't get to him. So anyway, Bob went to Cancers of America. He says this is an excellent place. He recommends it highly. But the problem was that they did so many tests and did so many stuff that they just accelerated the cancer and he just got sicker. I know. I when I think about Bob, I get happy. I just get happy when I think about Bob. So anyway, I had told the church about this dream, and they didn't acknowledge it, but that I think that was a message from God telling me, everything's going to be okay. Yes, you're having this hard time, but everything you need is at your fingertips. And he is going to be okay because he's in paradise. So then I had another dream that just really, really bothered me. In my dream, I walk into the kitchen and Bob is laying on the floor. And there was some other things in the dream, but basically I just remember walking to the kitchen, he's laying on the floor. So that upsets me and I worry about it a little bit. And then I move along. We always went to chemo on Tuesday mornings. And everybody loved Bob because Bob would walk in and he had such a happy, happy face. And all the people were sitting there with their chemo things. They would get happy. And then from there, I would go to the beauty shop. This is once a week. Either I fix my hair or my eyebrows. I would do something. And then we'd go to lunch. And then we would go to the doctor because Bob had an open wound on his foot. So the doctor was taking care of that. That was another beautiful doctor. Bob had such beautiful doctors. Except my doctor, he didn't like that one. And then after we finished that doctor, we always went to Home Depot and we would find him a project to do. And one day he asked me, he says, "Can I have electric staple? I don't have the strength anymore to staple." And so we got it. He was, since we had moved into the metal building, he was putting up sheetrock in the kitchen and remodeling it. We had a fire in the front of the metal building, and where the fire was right over the door to leave, and then right pretty much to the other side was the door, and that was the only way out. So if there was a fire, we were stuck. So he put a door in the bedroom he made me. Took him 3 weeks. 3 weeks to do this door. His children came, it was October, and they helped him cut out the door. And then they left. They just left him with a big hole in the wall. And he was so weak. He got it done. He was very good. He could fix a car, he could build a house. I mean, this man was a jack of all trades and a master of everything that he did. 3 weeks it took him to put that door in. My heart cried for him. And I know I'm telling everything out of sequence, and I have so much to say. The memories are just coming in on me. I know when we were on the road and we were traveling before we got married, I told him I had a dream. And I said, and you got up in front of the truck and you said, "Don't worry, everything's all right." And I said, in this dream, there were a bridge. The black metal bridges. So we're in Little Rock, Arkansas, and this wind shear is coming. and it's blowing all of the trucks over, laying on their side. Well, Bob went and parked his truck until all the wind shears were gone. So we were okay. And then again, I said, Bob, I had a dream. And in this dream, we had to go pick up something. And he says, don't worry about it. We'll be okay. So we wound up in upstate New York, and somebody had deserted a trailer full of Budweiser beer. And it was overloaded, and they had some problems with it and stuff. But, so we got the beer, and we took off. Everything was good. Then I told Bob, I had a dream, and in this dream, there was a bridge, and it was broken where it was hit by a truck. But you said, don't worry, everything's going to be all right. So it's late at night, it's pouring down rain. We're coming into Little Rock again, to the affiliated foods. He misses the road, hits the ditch, turns the truck over, laying flat on its side. I get up in the morning and I look, and I see the bridge with the broken that was hit. He said, you're not allowed to dream anymore. And then we were driving down 412, and I think it was in Tennessee. I think the 412 went all the way to Woodward, Oklahoma, too. The memory is not all that great after all these years, because that was 1995. Anyway, I said to him, I've been here before in my dream. I said, you're going to go around this corner and there's going to be a store. We went around the corner and there was the store. And then we got into Woodward. And I said to Bob, I've been here before too. I said, because if you look over here, there's a house. And I can't remember exactly what was going on in that house. I said, but over here was music. And Bob said, well, I used to live over there, but now the house is torn down. And over there, I played a guitar and sang in a band. And then I told him also that time, I says, I had a dream that I got the insurance business. And Saeed moved to Austin. Well, I did get the insurance business. Didn't do good with it because Donna left me. It was my fault. But she needed to go. She was sick. That's just the way life goes. But anyway, I got the insurance business. Saeed moved to Austin. Told me Austin was off limits to me. But every time he came to see me, he cried. He'd come to the truck to pick up or drop off Jahan, and he would cry, and he'd go, why? And after I married Bob, one night he came, it was Bob's birthday. Get Bob a great big old dish of ice cream. And Bob said to Saeed, he says, I have to go. He says, but you're more than welcome, you and the children, to stay in my home while I'm gone. Well, Saeed didn't. He had to go stay in a hotel. But Saeed would show up and he would cry. But I was happy. I didn't have anything, but I was happy. I even got to watch Hell Bob. That was the neatest comet. And anyway, I need to start. This story can go on forever because the way I met Bob was really weird. It was through searching for him. Okay? Oh, that'll take me back a little bit. Bob and I decided to move to Oklahoma because he wanted to be close to his children. So we threw a dart at a map to see where we were going to live. And then we found a place on the internet. And then when we got to Oklahoma, I lost the phone number. So we found another place that his brother showed us, which was perfect for us. And we got to his brother's house. And we're looking at pictures. And what do I see? I see a picture of this short man, all dressed in gray. It was Bob's grandfather that I had seen in the truck stop. And he had passed away many years ago. And I also remember once that we were in Illinois and I was standing in front of all the candy. And when I looked up and looked across the candy bar, there was that man in gray looking at me because I was thinking, I don't belong here. You know, I'm a professional. I'm a real estate professional. I'm an insurance agent, solicitor. You know, I don't belong here. And I'll tell you, I didn't belong there. And all the truck drivers and all the truck drivers' wives knew I didn't belong there. And they treated me with the greatest respect. Greatest respect. But when I saw this man cross the candy aisle, I got all upset and I'm going, Bob, Bob, Bob. And so I didn't leave. I stayed. This story is so out of order. I go before we're married, after we're married. But Bob and I really didn't do Christmas because I don't have my children anymore. They left home. And the joy of Christmas is family. And then even though we were in Oklahoma, just a couple of 100 miles from his kids, he wasn't allowed to see him. And his joy of Christmas was his children. So we really didn't do Christmas. But this Christmas, one of his children came, and we had to have a Christmas tree, and we had to have all of this other stuff, which, you know, we weren't big on, but we did it anyway. But Bob wished for a white Christmas. Christmas, it doesn't snow that much in Dibble, Oklahoma. We get a lot of freezing rain, icicles, everywhere icicles, but hardly ever do we get snow. We got 12 inches of snow Christmas Eve. 12 inches. He wished for his white Christmas. And you know, God had been so gracious all this time. Bob never complained of pain. Bob was always happy. You know, even me, you know, he's going to die, but you don't know when or how or what. Is he going to die? And you just wait. But I think the last time we went to Home Depot, we were kind of on the broke side. And Bob saw a compressor for nail guns so he could do his work. And he says, "Can we afford this compressor?" I went, "My book. Yeah, we can buy this." We couldn't. We couldn't afford it. It wasn't in the budget at all. So we got it. He never was able to use it. But he was so happy with that white Christmas. So happy with that white Christmas. And I think our marriage really and truly became stronger during this 14 months. And then I had this big pile of wood delivered on the January the 4th. It was ice everywhere. It was terrible, slipping and falling and everything. And I'm unloading the wood from this truck. And I really need Bob to help me. So he comes, he picks 1-2 pieces of wood, and he gets totally exhaustion, and he goes back in the house. I finish the wood, and then the next morning was Tuesday, January the 5th, 2010. I walk into the kitchen, and there my husband is laying on the kitchen floor, just like in my dream. He's snoring. He was putting on his pants, getting ready for the day, because it was chemo day and it was foot doctor day. So I call the police, and Billy gets over there. It's such a big town, we call the police by their first name. He comes in, he looks at Bob. He kicks me out of the kitchen. And he says, looking at his eyes, "I don't think Bob is coming back." And he called the ambulance. The ambulance came. They did whatever they wanted to do. They put him in the ambulance. They sat there. It seemed like they sat there forever. And I had called my home teacher from church. And Brother Luckenbill and his wife came to get me, to take me to the hospital. I mean, when the ambulance pulled away, they didn't even turn on the siren. They just drove away. And so we're driving to the hospital, and the song comes on, "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." And, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot. Anyway, I get upset, so they turned that off. When we get into the hospital, and I asked for the location of my husband, they take me to a waiting room. Then the preacher comes in, the chaplain, whatever you want to call him. So used to death that he's cold. And then the funeral guy comes, and I arrange his cremation. So I got all the business taken care of. And then I go to his room. My favorite number is 4. Bob is in room 4. Why is 4 my favorite number? You got God the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the Lord Jesus Christ. You got, and of course, me, our creation. All Trinity and all the world. 4. Very good number. So you could see Bob's breathing and everything. The doctor said he's brain dead. The cancer didn't kill him. The chemo killed him. He had brain aneurysm. So I talked to him, told him his children are coming, and trying to be very positive about his children. Then the missionaries come, and we give Bob a blessing. And the chaplain, with his cold heart, says, "Why are you talking to him? He can't hear you. He doesn't know anything." But they say when you die, the last thing to go is your hearing. So they hear you. And when we finished, when we prayed, his chest went up. It was just, you knew that he knew that we were blessing him. The one thing I can say about my husband, he didn't like churches. He didn't like institutions. But if you want to know a scripture in the Bible, he knew it. And when we were on the truck and the days ran into weeks and everything, always I knew when it was Sunday. He had a great respect for the Lord Jesus Christ and Sunday. I always knew when it was Sunday. Anyway, his chest went up and went back down. I also remember that he had said to me, "When I die, are you coming to my funeral?" And I went, "No, I am not coming to your funeral." He said, "But I'll need you." And I said, "No, you won't need me. You'll be dead. But I promise you this. When you do die, I am going to hold your hand until your last breath." God was gracious, and I held his hand till his last breath. Well, today marks 15 years that Bob has left this earth. And you know, all the hard times we had, I was so blessed to have Bob in my life. I think he was one of the best things that ever happened in my life. We had a lot of trials. But we had a happy life. I'll tell you more about different stories. But I think I've talked long enough. And God bless you. And I am so blessed to be able to tell this story.